What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Leading Off the Fantasy Pros Baseball Podcast. We are presented by bet365. Bet $5, get 150 in bonus bets when you use that promo code Leading Off only at bet365. There's a different dynamic going on today. You guys can probably notice that. Joe Rico here behind the mic, joined by my dear friend Casey Bubba. We are going to be taking you through about 2/3 of the remaining shows of the baseball season. We're still going to have Welshie on Mondays. Bubba and I are going to be taking you through the Wednesday and Friday shows. And then we're going to be switching off on the Mondays and also joining Welsh. But this is great. This is really fun for me. Get to join Bubba, who's been a good friend for the last couple of years. And we get to kind of talk some baseball here. Bubba, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, getting to talk some baseball. It seems like it's been a while since you and I have got to chat, even though we're in the same message groups and everything. But it's a different platform for us too, which is crazy. It's usually my show, your show, something else. So it's going to be fun, and I'm looking forward to the final month of the year. Is a lot of people are wrapping up seasons, like we said before the show, but you and I, we just keep on going because it's what we like to do. So I hope we can help some people that are still grinding till the end.
If you guys are here at this time of the season, you are the diehards. Absolutely. If you're still watching baseball content, listening to podcasts, reading articles this time of year, then you automatically have a bit of an edge on the rest of your league because, as we know, football's coming, people going back to school, everybody's got busy lives. So if you're still paying attention this time of year, it gives you just that little bit of extra edge on the competition. We're going to be breaking down the headlines today, doing the usual stuff. Just because Joe and Welsh aren't here, we are not going to divvy up things from different not defer too much from usual there as I stumble over my words here as we get going. But we are going to go through some headlines. We're going to take a couple of your questions if you guys want to throw some things in the chat. We're also going to be talking a couple of fantasy playoff questions if you got anything. Later on, we'll talk injuries, best bets, home runs, and all that. But let's get started off with Cade Povich, who was just brutal for a good chunk of the season. And honestly, not somebody that I was really trying to invest in so much, even against the White Sox. I just didn't really trust him this time of year, but 7 1/3 shutout innings with 10 strikeouts. Bubba, is this the sign that he's maybe figuring things out and turning the corner a little bit, or is this just it was the White Sox?
I'm going to lean more so it's the White Sox. That's why I wanted to discuss this. Like we got Albert Suarez going on Wednesday. This will be the real telltale sign if it's the White Sox. But at the same time, Povich looked good when he got called up for a spot start a few weeks back. He's shown improvements throughout the minors. If anything, it's something to kind of keep our eye on as the season goes on, as we head into 2025 and start all that draft prep. He was a highly touted prospect. So it is great to see him take advantage of teams you need to take advantage of. That's always like a big first step in my mind is as a hitter, take advantage of bad pitching, take advantage of bad hitting. Povich got that check mark. So that's a good sign going forward for Cade Povich.
Is it something where you'd want to continue to stream him rest of the season, or is it more so we'll take this gem against the White Sox and then kind of take our foot off the gas?
I'd probably take this gym and take our foot off the gas. I know there's I think the final 2 weeks of the year are pretty favorable for Orioles pitching, but coming up here, I believe they have Boston and Minnesota. Probably take those off for Cade and look at him for the final couple of weeks of the year. I think it's Detroit and maybe another White Sox start thrown in there too.
Could be interesting. Yeah, like we were saying before we started getting going this time of year, it's really just so much about picking and choosing the right matchups at this time. Streaming against the White Sox, against the Marlins, against the Rockies, away from Coors, that type of thing. It really just so important this time of year. Another important thing this time of year for real teams is choosing who to pitch to and who to avoid. And the Blue Jays yesterday did not choose to avoid Kyle Schwarber, even after he'd already burned them for a couple homers. He went 5 for 6, scored 4 runs, obviously hit the 3 homers, drove in 6. I tweeted it out yesterday. He probably won some head-to-head leagues by himself. In the average head-to-head week, you might get like 10, 12 home runs, 25, 30 ribbies. Maybe this is a huge boost for Kyle Schwarber. And this season as a whole, he's actually got that batting average back up into the 240 type of range. That was a huge concern for a lot of people coming into the year. He's going to kill your batting average. But being in the 240s and stealing a couple bases again, I might add, has kind of brought his value back. What are your thoughts on Schwarber going forward? Is he somebody where he'll be faded again next year? Is he going to go too low in drafts? Because he's been a top 50 player each of the last couple seasons now. Is that where he should be going, you think?
Yeah, I think he should be. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea drafting Kyle Schwarber because there's the batting average concerns, and he can literally just destroy a team's batting average because he does lead off. So it's a lot of plate appearances. It's a large sample size when all things are said and done. But yeah, if you can put a 240 average out there with 40 plus bombs, he's scoring to play 100, or he's between runs and RBIs getting close to 200 combined. Like you mentioned, throwing some stolen bases in there. That's elite stuff. Like you mentioned, top 50 player in fantasy. So I know I was bullish on him because of the batting average. I thought it was really, really bad, and I don't like taking on that risk, but maybe that's something I should think about again. Could he revert to that? Sure. Could he be a 240 guy going forward? Definitely. And if he's 240, then that's pretty darn good.
In that lineup, yeah, I think he is generally going to be worth it, and he might be pushed down. People will have the same conversations next year. Oh, I don't want to take the 220 batting average risk, and that's fine with me. If people want to fade him again, I'll happily take him. I didn't draft enough of him this year because of that worry in the back of my head, and when I did take him, it was like I backed him up with Corey Seager or somebody who could, like Andy Diaz, who we thought was going to hit like 320 coming into the season. I think next year I wouldn't worry so much about that because he's probably like a 220, 230 hitter, and in this day and age, it's not so bad, really. It's not so bad when the league average is about 230 all around. Wyatt Langford hit a walk-off grand slam against the Yankees yesterday. The season as a whole for Wyatt Langford, kind of underwhelming. It's been 111 games. He has 10 home runs, 12 stolen bases. He's hit 243. Pretty good plate skills, though. 20% strikeout rate. We're talking about an 8.8% walk rate. So he's not getting overmatched, really. I wonder if Langford is going to be somebody that really does take a step forward next season. I know that he was like one of the best hitting prospects we've seen in a long time. Is your expectation that we fully see him hit his stride next season, or is that maybe we need to just change our expectations a little bit from that number one overall hitting prospect?
I think he definitely takes a step forward. I don't know if it's a full stride. I'm horrible with prospects. That's a Welshie thing if we're going to go there. But I know a lot of people are still very optimistic on him. In that early meatball draft I did, he still went relatively decent. He didn't go like Jackson Churio, Jackson Merrill world, but he still is like a 6th or 7th round pick. So I think that moves up come further into draft season. He's hit 3 homers in the last 6 games. Maybe he's getting healthy. He's been banged up a lot after the slow start. Still down season, like you said, but I think we definitely see a move in the right direction next year for Wyatt Langford.
I just wonder if we're going to have to pay, like you said, he was a 6th round pick. He's probably going to get more expensive. Is he going to be worth it? It's like you have to project that growth, but we also know that growth isn't necessarily linear. Maybe he goes for 17 homers and 12 steals next season, and it's a bit better, but it's not, top 50, top 75. He's one of those guys I'm going to be pretty worried to actually hit the draft button on. I think it's at this point in time pretty clearly like Churio and Merrill and James Wood ahead of him. Would you agree there?
Yeah, 100% agree. Again, that's where they all went ahead of him in the draft. So I probably won't have much Langford. I'm a very cautious drafter, good or bad in that sense, and so he just won't fit my mold when I'm picking my team.
Yeah, I think I'm probably on the same page with you there, although it's just so tempting with that sprint speed. There's just so much to really like, but I think I kind of need to see it before I'm willing to pay such a high price, and I do think he'll be pretty expensive heading into next season. Let's talk about David Peterson, though. Man, 6 innings of 1-run ball with 11 strikeouts against the Red Sox. This is a start that I wanted nothing to do with. The Red Sox have been a great offense. Peterson has been really solid, but I don't really buy it when I dig below the surface. He has a 2.75 ERA. He has a 9-1 record, and yet we're looking at a 4.85 expected ERA. He has a 4.44 Sierra, and I think the big thing with David Peterson is the strikeouts. I mean, outside of yesterday where they were obviously there, they haven't really been there this season. 19.5% strikeout rate when he had been in the 25, 27% range the last couple of years. So are we buying into Peterson going forward? For me, I've loved him the last couple seasons, but the dip in strikeouts does concern me. It's just strange that it's come with a 2.75 ERA, but also a 1.31 whip. It's kind of a hard eval for David Peterson, Bubba.
100%, and that's kind of the bummer with Peterson because I'm with you. I've been a big fan, and he showed strikeout stuff in previous seasons. It was more walk issues to go with the strikeouts. It kind of kept you a few steps back with David Peterson. This year, the walks have gotten a little better, honestly. But you mentioned that you look at the Sierras, the XFIPs, any underlying ERA metric shows he's overachieving. The fact he strikes out 11 Boston Red Sox is just bonkers. After you mentioned that the previous 6 starts, he had 27 strikeouts in 38 innings. So obviously not a dominating strikeout arm in that sense. But like you go deeper into that start against Boston, dude had a 40% CSW and 20 whiffs in that start. Like he was just dominating the Boston Red Sox, which is baffling. At the same time, very, very tough to trust, as you were mentioning. And it's got to be a start by start basis. We're at the part of the year though where maybe you just roll the hot hand, all things considered. But like when you look at Peterson's next few starts coming up here for the Mets, he takes on the the Toronto Blue Jays next week. So how are you feeling about that one?
I mean, our offense has been a bit better as of
Yes, it
late,
has.
but
Yes, it has.
not exactly world beaters still. So I'd probably stream him in a lot of cases. Maybe not in like a 10-team league, but 12s and 15s. I probably would do it. It's risky, but I think I would do it.
Well, we'll expand this out a second here. So, over the next 28 days, basically the rest of the season. So, he gets Toronto next week. Then he gets a two-step. If then this is obviously could change in a moment's notice. Washington and Philadelphia. So, Washington's been sneaky too. And then the last week of the year, he gets the Milwaukee Brewers in Milwaukee. So, none of them are cupcake matchups. Put it maybe the Nats, but they just don't strike out. So, yeah, it's tough. Tough one with Peterson.
Toronto doesn't really strike out that much either. As bad as they are, generally speaking, they're not a team that like one of the 10 best teams in terms of strikeout rate in baseball. So if you're looking for those strikeouts to come back and remain, it's probably not going to happen for David Peterson. But man, like he's one of those guys. I think it's like an Edward Cabrera type of thing with me. I'll always still kind of believe, but we're getting to the point where it's like I need to see more below the surface. And everybody's probably listening like 2.75 ERA. He's been great, but I don't buy it. I just don't buy that he should be doing that well. Randall Grichuk is also somebody I think is worth mentioning. He had a couple of home runs yesterday, filling in for Lourdes Gurriel Jr. And honestly, it kind of surprised me. It snuck up on me a little bit how solid Grichuk has been this year. It hasn't been in a huge sample size, 218 at bats, but he's hit 284, 8 home runs, 34 ribbies. And just over the last 2 weeks, he's hit 4 home runs in his last 19 at bats. So is this a situation where if you need a little bit of outfield help, specifically in deeper leagues, would you take a shot at Grichuk? He's 2% rostered on Yahoo leagues. People aren't really paying attention, but should they be?
I think they should be for a couple reasons. With Gurriel going on the IL, this makes things very, very interesting because now you have a team that was platooning Grichuk, and obviously Gurriel was starting every day, but Grichuk looks like he's going to slide in to that everyday role, which makes him much more enticing for fantasy. You mentioned some of the power he showcased of late, like over the last 17 games, 349 average, 5 homers, 10 runs, 11 RBIs. That'll play. That'll play for sure. We know he matches lefties, but if he's going to play every day while Gurriel's out, there's still no timetable for Gurriel's return. That makes Grichuk quite serviceable coming up, especially a team that gets to face, Texas, Milwaukee. Then they go to Colorado in a couple of weeks. That's pretty nice. So Grichuk could have some viability if he gets some long-term run.
Arizona's offense has been one of the
One of the
best in
best.
all of baseball, too. And I think part of that is probably Corbin Carroll's turnaround recently has really boosted that. But like they are the number 1 team in baseball for the season in runs and hits per game, second in batting average, first in on base percentage and OPS, 7th in home runs. Pretty basic stats we're reading off there, but they are doing pretty damn well for themselves. And yes, cousin Donnie in the chat, I did in fact get a fresh cut because the hair I was looking like peak Tim Lincecum, Jacob DeGrom there. I needed to cut it off. I put it off for way too long, but yes, the flow is officially gone.
Oh no! Oh no!
It's finally gone. Hopefully, man, by the time you see me in November in Arizona, it'll probably be a little bit longer again. One more piece of news on the headlines. Reed Detmers finally made his return to the majors, and I saw this and I was like, oh my god, it's against the Dodgers. Why do they have to bring him up to face the Dodgers? Well, 6 innings of 2-run ball with 10 strikeouts for Mr. Reed Detmers. I don't know what to make of him because he started off looking so brilliant this season, really fell apart in a hurry, and then spent most of the year in the minors. What he did in the minors wasn't very good either. 14 starts down there of a 5.54 ERA, a 140 whip. I don't really know if I want to trust him going forward. I think the win potential is probably pretty low with the Angels, but it's hard to say that this wasn't encouraging, especially against the Dodgers.
Yeah, this is a bummer because I've been writing for a couple of weeks. Pick up Detmers. He's going to be. They just earned the extra year of control. All these things because his last like 2 or 3 starts in the minors were very good. Lots of strikeouts. The whole sample size is agreed horrible in the minors, but like it looked like he was trying to find his way. I told everybody for the Dodgers start, I said, add him, don't start him. It's like stay away from this. Obviously, pitched great. And his upcoming schedule is going to be interesting. The Angels are currently using a 6-man rotation. So 2 steps are tough. In 2 weeks, he's for now scheduled for a 2-step. One of them is the White Sox. That's a plus. But Detmers, if you need strikeouts, can be a dude. Just know blowups are coming when it comes with Reed Detmers. But very, very encouraging start, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I was stashing him in a lot of deeper leagues, a lot of NFBC leagues. I've been holding on to him for quite a while. Didn't have the guts to start him yesterday, but I think I'm probably going to be putting him into the lineups going forward, depending on what's going on. But I think generally speaking, he's earned another start with what he looked like yesterday. One thing in the just for fun section today, Ben Joyce, 105.5 mile an hour strikeout. It was the fastest strikeout in the StatCast era and the third fastest pitch apparently that was ever recorded, behind a couple of Aroldis Chapman pitches. This guy is just unbelievable. The thing that's kind of surprised me a little bit is that the strikeouts haven't been what you would probably expect from a guy who throws harder than probably anybody ever, or close to it, like one of the top 2 or 3 hardest throwers we've ever seen. And yet the strikeouts aren't really there for him. Do you see Joyce going forward as a closer? Because when you think about a closer with a 23% strikeout rate, 10% walk rate, it doesn't really jive. But I think he does probably have closer stuff still. What do you think?
I think he's got the closer stuff. I think he should get the chance to be a closer. I agree. You'd like to see better than a basically 13% K to walk. That is not going to be the ticket. Like, we see a lot of guys with walk issues, but they also have like a 35% K rate. So there's a big difference there. If Joyce doesn't have that, it's troublesome, especially throwing gas like he does, which is pretty wild. I think he's going to be the closer. He should be the closer. Then again, it's the Angels, folks. So take everything I said with a gigantic grain of salt.
Will you draft him next year as the Angels closer?
He'd have to be a closer 3 for me on my team,
Yeah.
kind of like how I drafted Estevez and some other guys. I won't be reaching to grab him as a RP 1 or 2 from my team.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. If he's like a third guy going and pick 200 to 250 type of range, just a little bit of insurance, then I can get behind it. If he saves 5 or 6 games down the stretch and pushes himself up 50 picks or so, that's probably where I have to tap out. Rookie lookie today. I just want to talk a little bit about the Rookie of the Year race, because we know Welsh has been on this one, following it constantly. Paul Skeens at one point was minus 5,000 for Rookie of the Year. He is now not even the favorite. Jackson Merrill is at minus 900. The books just seem to be going whatever way the wind goes recently for NL Rookie of the Year, even with Paul Skeens tossing 5 shutout innings last night. So looking at their lines, Paul Skeens 114 innings, 142 strikeouts, a 2.13 ERA, a 0.98 whip, and 3.3 Fangraphs WAR versus Jackson Merrill's 68 runs, 21 homers, 79 runs scored, 16 steals, and a 291 batting average with great defense and a 4.2 FWAR as a rookie. They've both been fantastic. Bubba, do you think that it's Merrill's to lose at this point? And honestly, what do you think is your own opinion? Like, what do you think is going to happen and what do you think should happen?
Yeah, Jackson Merrill's the Rookie of the Year. I remember my very first show I came on this season for leading off. Welsh brought up that minus 5,000. And I said, take the field. This is called gambling, folks. Take the plus money and see what happens, because pitchers are 1 pitch away. Now, Skeens is healthy. That's great, but he's also slowing down. That's the reality of the situation. For Jackson Merrill, did I expect him to go on this run? No, but it's been insane, and it's not slowing down anytime soon. And if he actually took the field at first, now you can go take Paul Skeens at plus money, and you just watch the show. Just watch the show now, and you make some money either way. So that's how you play a book. It doesn't always work that way, no, but when you see plus money like that, to me, anytime you see a pitcher leading that kind of charge, take a stand. Skeens is awesome, and there's a weird world where he still probably wins it, but it should be Jackson Merrill to win. That's who I would pick.
I think you're probably right. I don't know which way the voters are going to go on this one, though. This rookie pitcher who's doing things that rookie pitchers shouldn't really be able to do, especially for a bad team. But Jackson Merrill going 2020, hitting almost 300. He might finish with 5 WAR for the season. That being said, I don't know if even older voters know what WAR is. So again, it's kind of a tricky one to actually guess what's going to happen. But I agree. Like Paul Skeens at plus 600, throw a couple bucks on that, especially if you already took him before, or if you took Merrill before at plus money. You're guaranteed to look pretty good at the end of the season. Let's take a couple questions. Pistol here, who's always in the chat, always shouting us out here. Good guy. Wants to know what our thoughts are on David Bednar. It looks like he's going to be removed from high leverage role for a little while. Are you dropping Bednar, Bubba, with so little time left in the season, or are you still holding on here?
Yeah, I mentioned it last night with Ryan on our show that I will be dropping Bednar if I had him, just because it's been really bad to begin with. He's shown some really rough skills of late, and I feel like if they're taking him out, it's going to be for at least 2 weeks. So now you have a week and a half when he comes back. What's he going to get you? 2 saves, maybe 3 at best with the Pirates. So I would use that roster spot to maximize other options on my team. So yeah, Bednar, he would be a drop for me going forward. He's just kind of it sucks. It sucks to see, but he's lost it for now.
an absolutely terrible season, but I feel like I'll be buying the dip. I feel like
Oh
I
yeah.
will be buying that coming into next season. He's going to go outside the top 150 picks probably. People are going to see that ERA, which is disgusting, and everything's been pretty bad. Even the supporting metrics aren't great, but they're a bit better. But I think he's going to be a pretty easy buy for me next season, considering how depressed that price is probably going to be. Any cheap saves out there? Kind of a combination question. The big one for me, like looking at Yahoo rostership, is probably Jeff Hoffman. He's still 43% rostered. I mean, it's not like a guarantee, but there's not really so many guarantees that I'm seeing right now in a lot of leagues. But is there anybody that really comes to mind for you in terms of cheap saves or somebody that's available in a lot of cases?
Yeah, there's nothing guaranteed. I like the Hoffman call. I know when I looked at Michael Kopech at the end of last week, he was around the
Mm.
50% bubble, and he's kind of splitting the role with Evan Phillips. So, and he's getting you good ratios and strikeouts. So I'm not opposed to Kopech in that one. And then you just going to play the roulette in Tampa Bay or the Cubs if you want, but that's a messy, messy situation. So, yeah, I like the Hoffman call, Kopech. Stick along those lines and see where it goes.
Nothing great out there. You're really just hoping for the best, hoping for some fortunate bounces this time of year. The last question we got: are we firing up Bowden Francis against the Phillies today? May also take the Blue Jays money line. So I have one of my bets is about Bowden Francis later on today. Not to spoil it, but I feel like he's been running a little bit too pure, coming up against a pretty good offense here. So I would say generally it's hard to bench him after like pitcher of the month in August, one of the best stretches we've ever seen from a starting pitcher. But I don't think I really trust him here. Unless you really need the volume, I think he's probably a sit.
Yeah, it's tough. Like I would run him out there, and you hope because he's made the pitch mix changes, all the good stuff everyone likes to talk about. But you got to wait for the banana peel. Is the way I look at it. Like it's going to come here in one of these final starts. You think because the 106 ERA is great over his last 5 starts, but like and the 2.66 ERA is good. So like he's pitched well, but a 30% K to walk. How sustainable is that? Let's be real. There's going to be a setback. He's facing the juggernaut in Philadelphia. There's no hiding that. I'd
Yeah.
still run him out there just the same way I promoted. Hey, you start Spencer Arrighetti against him last week, and he went into Philadelphia and got the job done. Um, you could get bad. There's no doubt in that, but I'll take my chances with Bowden Francis.
That's fair. Yeah, I think in most cases it's really going to be hard to put him on the bench
Yeah,
after what we've seen. I mean, just a ridiculous run. I mean, even just that for that Boston start last week, I said the same thing. Like, it makes me a little bit nervous. I don't know. And then 7 shutout innings later, here we are. Bowden Francis. I don't know if they officially named the pitchers of the month for August, but I feel like he's got to be the pitcher of the month in the American League for August with what he did.
he should be. He should be. Or hey, let's still play between him and Arrighetti, honestly.
Yeah, it definitely could be. Let's move into the 3 up and 3 down. 3 up, Chris Sale, 7 shutout innings with 9 strikeouts against the Rockies, putting the finishing touches on what is probably a Cy Young season. Bubba, you think it's going to be Chris Sale's first Cy Young this year?
Yes, it should be. He's been
Yeah.
great as long as that arm somehow doesn't fall off the last 3 weeks of the year. It's his to lose, and there's nothing against anybody else. There's been some great pitchers, but it is definitely Chris Sales. And real quick, Bowden Francis was pitcher of the month. Just looked it up.
He was pitch of the month. Okay, I knew it was going to happen. I just wasn't sure if they'd officially named it. Yeah, Chris Sale. I mean, he probably should have won a Cy Young back in his White Sox days. It was just so crowded in the American League in the 2010s. Verlander and Scherzer probably won like 5 of the Cy Youngs there, and then you had some random like Rick Porcello stuff, and Kluber won a couple. It was very crowded. So no room for him over there, although he probably should have won one still, but it looks like they're going to make up for that this season. Paul Goldschmidt, 3 for 5 with a combo meal yesterday, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., 4 for 5 with a home run himself. He has been just unbelievable in the second half. On the 3 down, Tyler Phillips just got destroyed by the Blue Jays, 2/3 of an inning, got shelled for 8 hits and 6 earned runs. Clay Holmes, we mentioned the Wyatt Langford walk-off grand slam earlier. That was off of Clay Holmes, another blown save. Yankee fans are coming with the pitchforks. They are not happy about this one. And then Pete Crow Armstrong, who's been very good recently, went 0 for 4 with a golden sombrero yesterday. Bubba, I got a question for you in the chat here. What hat are you repping today?
This is the Javelinas from the Arizona Fall League. Got it last year. Oh, sorry, First Pitch Arizona. So yeah, that's one of the fun looks. They had some cool hats. I got a Scorpions hat and some other ones. So yeah, I saw this crazy looking pig on here. It's all neon. I'm like, yeah, that works for Bubba shows.
If you guys are looking to razz us in person, have a couple beers, shoot some golf, come out to Arizona over Halloween and attend First Pitch Arizona. It's a great conference that Baseball HQ puts on. Let's talk about some injuries, though. We haven't been here in a few days because of the Labor Day weekend. We haven't done a show in like 5 days. So let's catch up on a couple of injury news and notes. Kyle Tucker, surprise, surprise, everybody. He did, in fact, fracture his shin in June, as we all kind of expected. I've talked on God knows how many shows about like, what's going on? It can't just be a bruise, right? It can't just be a bruise. Well, it wasn't a bruise. I don't know why teams do this kind of thing, but it looks like he's probably going to return at the end of the week, or so we're told. I won't believe it until he's actually on a lineup card. But can we do anything going forward with this, or is it just like teams lie and we just have to deal with it?
Teams lie. We have to deal with it. I'd imagine they'll talk about this in the offseason, kind of like the NFL made them report injuries. Because when you get into bed, like baseball is now with betting agencies, you need to have a little more accountability to what is going on in the world. Because, like, if Tucker's out 2 weeks, you're taking a futures bet on the Astros, you feel good. If you knew Tucker was out for 2 months, how would that affect your thoughts? Or 3 months, I should say. Like, there's a lot of that going on. And to your point, is he was expected back Wednesday or Thursday. Well, on Wednesday morning, at day we're recording, they said they hope to have him back in 3 to 5 days. So, yeah. So let's just, and trust me, I'm a big Kyle Tucker fan. I love Kyle Tucker. This is beyond tilting, but I just want to get healthy for next year because I already took him 8th overall in the early meatball draft. So do what you got to do, kid.
I just don't understand why they wouldn't be transparent. Like I've talked about this on my show. It's not football. It's not hockey. It's not like you're going to get targeted when you come back. I don't get it. I don't get why they wouldn't just tell us. Now, if you had been told when he first went down in June that Tucker's going to miss 3 months, would you have dropped him then?
Yes, I would have,
Yeah.
unfortunately, just because, you do the math. Now we're getting him back mid-September. That's 3.5 months where I could have been streaming guys and doing a lot. And then he's been sitting on my bench because I'm stubborn and I kept thinking, okay, he'll be back here. He'll be back here. And he never was. So I'm not like angry about it, but I'm very frustrated about the situation.
Yeah. Well, so
I'm
those
not
things
mad.
where
I'm
it's,
disappointed.
yeah, I mean, it's not like it was Paul DeYoung or whoever that goes down, and you think, all right, well, they're a drop, whatever. It's your first round pick. You kind of have to just hold on and hope for the best. But absolute worst case scenario, after we started the season thinking Tucker might be in the 1-1 conversation next year, but I don't think he is at this point. But still, he'll probably be a first round pick, just based on what he's able to do in that lineup. Another kind of interesting one, Jacob DeGrom, likely to make one more rehab start, but there's also been some talk that he could maybe start Saturday at the big league level and just not go through another rehab at Double A. Seems unlikely, but it has been discussed. I assume that you would throw DeGrom back into your lineup first time out, Bubba.
Yeah, I usually don't throw guys like that, but yeah, when it comes to DeGrom, we just we roll in this situation, especially if you're looking at a weekend start against I believe it's the Cubs. No, the Cubs are facing the Yankees. Texas, it'd be the Angels. So yes, you would start
Oh
Jacob
yeah.
DeGrom if he pitches this weekend. Yes.
Oh yeah. Because the thing is, like, you've been holding him all season long. You haven't been holding him when he comes back to sit him, right? Like you're getting him in the lineups. Even if he was facing a tough team, I feel like personally I'd probably do it. What he's capable of doing in just a couple of starts, like he could give you a .6 ERA, strike out 15 batters per nine, and really really help secure some championships, especially in head-to-head leagues. If you get that kind of reinforcement back, man. And I wonder, I've talked about this with Welsh. He thinks I'm a lunatic, but I think if DeGrom has a few DeGrom-esque starts, we could see him sneak into the first round next year. Is that crazy, Bubba?
I think second round, first is tough, but you never know. He was a former first round guy. I just have a hard time with the first round because there's so much talent right now doing that early meatball draft. Like there is a
Yeah,
lot of guys you could argue for the back end of that first round right now.
that's very true. Yeah, the first round is absolutely packed this year. Another one, this one is not so great. Justin Steele, who recently did a show with us here at Fantasy Pros, unfortunately scratched from his start yesterday with elbow inflammation. It looks like a possibility that he ends up on the IL. That there's been not a ton of clarity on when he's actually going to pitch again. I think Steele is probably a drop for those in head-to-head leagues, especially if you end on September 15th or even September 22nd. There's just not a lot of time for him to come back, look like Justin Steele, and actually be productive. Do you think that's fair to say that you should probably just drop him in most cases?
Um, yeah, I was hoping to get more information by Sunday, and right now it's kind of radio silent.
Yeah.
He's optimistic, but we know how that goes. The Cubs aren't playing for anything. They kind of want Steele for next year in my mind. So if you have no one to add, sure, hold him. But I think he's probably a drop because I would not force him to pitch if I'm the Cubs right now.
Yeah. Common refrain on my show is if you have the IL space, then put him in the IL. But who the hell has IL space this time of season? Probably not too many people. But It's dicey, man. When you got elbow inflammation, you got to hope that he comes back and looks good. He could come back and look awful and ruin your head-to-head week for you. It's a tricky situation. I think you
Definitely.
probably hold on if you can, but it's not looking great at this point for Justin Steele. John Gray placed on the IL with a neuroma in his foot. Not 100% sure exactly what that is. You're not exactly dealing with a couple doctors up here, but it looks like he will miss the rest of 2024. So you can easily send John Gray back to the waiver wire. And Lourdes Gurriel, we alluded to it earlier because of Randall Grichuk coming into the lineup and doing good things. But Gurriel went to the IL with a calf injury, and Christian Walker was also activated from the IL. So he goes back in the lineup. What does that mean for Josh Bell, I guess, is the question, because Josh Bell had been the replacement there, had been doing pretty well, and honestly, he's still done pretty well. Home runs have kind of dried up a little bit the last couple of weeks. Do you think he still sees any playing time, Josh Bell? Is he going to get in there some DH at bats, or is he more just like a deep league guy at this point, you think?
Right now, they're saying Bell will still play versus left-handed pitching, which is a plus. Now the question is, how much does he sneak in there? Maybe the Gurriel injury opens the door for a few more at bats at DH or something. So it's tough. Like if it's just lefties only, by a drop, unless you're in a deep league. So keep an eye on what goes on the rest of the week is the best I can say on this one.
I think I'd have to agree with you there. Bubba, it is time for the best bets of the day presented by Bet365. Again, use that promo code leading off and you'll get 150 in bonus bets when you bet $5 using that promo code leading off. Bubba, what do you got for us today on the betting side?
Yeah, it says, I love my prop bets. We're going to have Francisco Lindor over 1.5 total bases at plus 135. Fun matchup for the Mets. And anytime I get Lindor at plus money like this, I will roll with it. Lawrence Butler, I said on the last time I was on the show, I was mad there was no prop bets. Well, he homered in his first at bat in that game. So that was fun. But I'll take Lawrence Butler over 1.5 total bases at plus 120, going up against George Kirby, who's been atrocious of late. So I'll take my chances there. And then you mentioned PCA going 0 for 4 with the sombrero in his last start. I'm going to take him over half a run tonight at plus 160. A little bounce back start there. The Cubs offense has been very good. Very favorable matchup versus Domingo Germán and the Pittsburgh Pirates. So I expect a little bounce back from PCA. So 3 plus money ones there for you.
I will also be looking to target Domingo Germán, the human pitching machine, and I'm taking Seiya Suzuki over 1.5 total bases at plus 145. It feels like a really nice number to get there for Suzuki, who's been really just excellent this season. So I really like that one. Spencer Arrighetti over 5.5 strikeouts against the Cincinnati team that strikes out a decent bit. I don't know why the line is so low considering what we've seen from him recently. That one is set at minus 125. It's in Cincinnati, so there is a little bit of concern there that I have whenever anybody's pitching in Cincinnati, but I think 5.5 is a very attainable number for Arrighetti. And then going back on something we said earlier about Bowden Francis, I just think he's run a little bit too pure recently. I'm taking over 2.5 earned runs. Even if he allows 3 earned runs, it can still be a good start. It doesn't mean he's going to get blown up necessarily, but against Philadelphia, I do think that we're going to start to see him come back to earth a little bit. So that would be mine. Spencer Arrighetti over 5.5 strikeouts. Seiya Suzuki over 1.5 total bases. Bowden Francis over 2.5 earned runs. And then Bubba, Francisco Lindor over 1.5 bases. Lawrence Butler over 1.5 bases. And Pete Crow Armstrong over 0.5 runs. Friends, those are the best bets of the day for Wednesday. Still got Joe and Welsh here up on the art. We're probably not going to have any Joe and Bubba art rest of season. Maybe we could pull something off. But I think you're going to have to just be reminded of Joe and Welsh going forward. Bubba, we got one more thing left to do today. I don't think there is a new home run board, so I apologize for those watching in the live chat. But let's get your home run call for today before we sign off.
I love the Seiya call, by the way. I was looking at that one quite a bit. But for me, Matt Olson started to figure things out of late, it feels like. And you get Blaylock of the Rockies taking the bump there in Atlanta. So give me Matt Olson finding the seats there for the hometown favorites.
Matt Olson has turned the season around a little bit. I wonder how expensive he's going to be next year. My call for today is Shohei Ohtani. I know, not the most original, but I took Rhys Hoskins last week on the show, and we got a Rhys Hoskins win. Went with a little more niche name last time, but we're taking Shohei 3 days without a home run. It's like, what does this guy have a temperature or something? He's facing Griffin Canning, so I think that one should be pretty easy to see tonight. Him taking Griffin Canning yard tonight in Anaheim. But Bubba, we've done it. We've taken over leading off. Thank you, my friend, for joining me today. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been a blast. It's almost like we've done this before together. So that was awesome, and looking forward to Friday. And I hope the listeners liked it. The chat was fun. Yeah, Joe and I will be with you guys every Wednesday and Friday the rest of the way here in September. So fun stuff. And thanks again, my friend. Looking forward to chatting in a few days.
Always let us know what you think. Throw some comments into the chat. If you liked us, if you hated us, if we're better than Welsh and Joe, if we're worse than Welsh and Joe, whatever it is, let us know. We always like to see any input you guys have for us. Like Bubba said, we'll be back again on Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 Pacific, running through the same stuff we usually do, catching up on the previous couple days worth of action. Make sure you're checking out Bubba over on the Twitter at BDentrek, BDENTREK. I am at Joe Rico 99, just my name and the number 99. Very original, of course, but that will do it, guys. We'll be back again on Friday. Until then, take care. Have yourselves a great day.